Based on the history and theme of the Tim Camaro YouTube channel, it is unlikely that the channel would like Hero Elementary. The Tim Camaro channel is well known for its classic character battle and rant videos, such as Tim Camaro vs. Caillou, Tim Camaro vs. Team Umizoomi, and Tim Camaro vs. Super Y, where the creator humorously expresses dislike or annoyance toward various preschool and children's television characters and shows. Because Hero Elementary is also a preschool educational animated series aimed at younger audiences, similar to many of the shows featured in Tim Camaro's traditional Versus videos, it would likely fall into the category of shows the channel pokes fun at or targets in its content. Yes, it is entirely possible conceptually, given the style of content on the Tim Camaro channel. The channel's classic character battle format traditionally features Tim Camaro facing off against various preschool and children's show characters, such as the casts of Team Umizoomi, Super Y, and Yo Gabba Gabba. Because Hero Elementary features the Sparks crew, Lucida, AJ, Sarah, and Benny, and their teacher, Mr. Sparks Ree, the show fits the exact demographic and format of previous targets in those satirical confrontation videos. However, whether such a video will ever actually be made depends entirely on the channel creator's personal choices and current project interests, as Tim Camaro's uploads have become less frequent over time. The Tim Camaro YouTube channel, famous for classic GoAnimate/Vyond-style character battle and rant videos like Tim Camaro vs. Team Umizoomi and Tim Camaro vs. Johnny Test, hasn't actively uploaded fresh content in a very long time, primarily because of how much time has passed since that era of YouTube content creation. Several factors typically explain why creators from that specific era move on and stop uploading. Growing up and changing interests, channels like Tim Camaro were often run by creators during their teenage years or younger days. As real life took over, such as transitioning into college, careers, or adulthood, priorities shift away from making animation and parody videos. Shifts in platform guidelines. The style of content common on the channel, frequently involving aggressive parodies, rants, and copyright-heavy characters, became much harder to maintain on YouTube due to stricter copyright takedowns, changing monetization rules, and platform updates regarding community guidelines. Natural burnout. After years of producing a specific niche format, like character battles or socially awkward versus average versus awesome volumes, creators often simply run out of steam or interest in that specific style of comedy. If a hypothetical Tim Camaro vs. Hero Elementary scenario were to happen, Furblur, the class pet hamster with super speed, would likely be portrayed as upset or worried, primarily because of loyalty to her friends. In the context of parody character battle videos, pets or sidekicks are usually shown reacting to the conflict with their owners or team members. Here is why Furblur would likely be sad or distressed. Strong bond with the Sparks crew. Furblur is very close with Lucida, AJ, Sarah, Benny, and Mr. Sparks, often tagging along on their missions. Seeing her friends get challenged or put into a comical conflict would naturally upset a loyal sidekick. Separation and chaos. These parody battles typically involve a lot of shouting, chasing, and disruption. For a small, cheerful hamster who mostly just wants to zip around in her hamster ball and eat carrots, a chaotic showdown would be overwhelming and scary. Do you want to explore more ideas about how other characters from Hero Elementary might react in a funny parody battle? If a classic Vion/GoAnimate style parody video like Tim Camaro vs. Hero Elementary were to happen, the dialogue would typically follow the format of Tim being annoyed by preschool show characters trying to bother him, followed by the heroes attempting to use their science powers. Based on typical videos from that era of YouTube, the script would likely play out something like this. The setup dialogue. Scene opens in Tim Camaro's room. He is trying to relax or mind his own business when the Sparks crew suddenly bursts in or pops up on screen, shouting their catchphrases. Lucida Sky. Look, everyone. It's Tim Camaro. We can use our superhero science powers to save his day. AJ Gadgets. According to my calculations, Tim Camaro's boredom levels are at 100%. Activating gadget mode. Sarah Snap. Let's snap into action. Super speed science time. Benny Bubbles. Yeah. Let's go, let's go. I brought bubbles. Mr. Sparks. Hold on, Sparks crew. Remember, we need to observe, question, and investigate before we. Tim Camaro slowly turns around, looking completely unimpressed and visibly irritated, matching the tone of videos like Tim Camaro vs. Super Y or Team Umizoomi. Tim Camaro. Oh, great. Another annoying bunch of preschool superheroes. Will you guys leave me alone already? I am trying to have some peace and quiet. Lucida Sky. Oh no, he doesn't want our help. Quick, let's use teamwork and science to figure out why he's so grumpy. Tim Camaro. I'll show you grumpy. Proceeds with the classic cartoon battle confrontation. In the style of classic GoAnimate/Vion parody videos and character rants, if Tim Camaro were to call Super Y and Little Einsteins a total ripoff, it would typically spark a comedic, over-the-top argument within the video. The interaction would likely unfold through these humorous tropes. The accusation, Tim Camaro would stand in front of a green screen or his signature room background, pointing angrily and yelling about how preschool shows steal ideas from each other, comparing their formats, reading books, or going on classical music adventures. The characters' defenses, Super Y, and the Storybrooke Village Gang would try to defend themselves by claiming they are teaching reading comprehension and spelling, while offering to use a super reader power to change the story. Leo, June, Quincy, and Annie from Little Einsteins would jump into Rocket, blast off with a loud musical cue, and try to use a pat-pat-pat rhythm to defend their mission. The escalation, annoyed by the singing and the catchphrases, Tim Camaro would likely escalate the argument into a full-scale versus battle, bringing out an over-the-top reaction or calling them out for being annoying children's characters. In a classic Tim Camaro character battle parody, the tools and weapons used by both sides usually lean into over-the-top, cartoonish exaggeration based on their respective shows. What Tim Camaro might use. The signature rant/microphone, a classic tool in these videos to blast loud complaints or obnoxious sound effects at opponents. Random cartoon objects, giant heavy objects, anvils, or classic Vion-style props dropped out of nowhere to stop the heroes. Pure annoyance, sheer stubbornness and irritation used to overwhelm overly cheerful characters. What the Sparks crew might use. Super science gadgets. AJ Gadgets would likely whip out high-tech gizmos, scanners, and blueprints to analyze Tim's attacks. Flight and agility. Lucida Sky using her power of flight to dodge obstacles from above. Super strength and tools. Sarah Snap using quick problem-solving items and super strength to lift heavy objects. Playful distractions. Benny Bubbles creating massive bubbles or using animal-themed gadgets to try and trap or confuse Tim. Mr. Sparks guidance. Giving last-minute science instructions or yelling out commands from the sidelines while trying to keep everyone calm, especially if poor Fur Blur is watching from a safe distance. In the world of classic Tim Camaro character battle videos, the outcome almost always depends on the dramatic, over-the-top comedy of the creator's style. Usually, in these types of parody videos, Tim Camaro tends to either win through sheer annoyance, stubbornness, and loud rants, or the video ends in a chaotic draw where both sides are just too exhausted to keep going. Given how cheerful and persistent the Sparks crew would be with their endless science facts and superhero teamwork, Tim would probably get completely overwhelmed by all the talking and gadgets, leading to a hilarious stalemate where Tim just gives up and walks away to find some peace and quiet.